Hello dear students, welcome back. So in the last class we studied Newton's first law of motion, and I hope you've understood Newton's first law of motion, which is based on inertia. And what is inertia? Yes, the tendency of a body to remain in its state of rest or of uniform motion is known as inertia. And based on that we studied Newton's first law of motion, that is any body at rest will continue to be in its state of rest, and any body in motion, uniform motion, will continue to be in its uniform motion unless and until applied by an external unbalanced force. Okay, and I will give you some examples also, so keep revising. In the previous videos we studied about momentum also, and I told you that momentum, law of momentum will be required when we study Newton's second law of motion. So our topic for today is Newton's second law of motion. Let's quickly revise what we studied. We studied about momentum. What is momentum? Momentum is the measure of motion in a body. The measure of motion in a body, that means any body having mass m, and if it is moving with some velocity v, then what will be its motion? Obviously when a body is moving, every body has mass, okay? And if it is at rest, then its velocity becomes 0. So what about this product? It will also reduce to 0. But when a body having some mass will be moving with some velocity, then the measure of its velocity, measure of its motion will be known as momentum. Okay, to put it in simple words, P, momentum, is the product of mass and velocity, m into v. Okay, what is the unit of momentum? Unit is kg meter per second. From where we got this unit? Unit of mass is kg, SI unit, and SI unit of velocity is meter per second. So since P is the product of m and v, so its unit will also be a product of unit of mass and unit of velocity, kg meter per second, right? Then I gave you two examples. Let us consider two bodies. One body is having mass m1, it is moving with velocity v. Other body is having mass m2, it is also moving with same velocity v. Okay, then here we know m1 is greater than m2. That means this body having mass m1, its mass is greater than m2. So what will be the momentum of body 1? P1 will be m1v. Momentum of body B2, body 2 will be P2 is m2v. Okay. Now here see, m1v, m2v. vv are same, vv get cancelled. Since m1 is greater than m2, therefore p1 will be greater than p2. That means momentum of this body having larger mass will be greater. So what did we conclude? P is directly proportional to mass. If mass is more, its momentum will be more. If mass is less, its momentum will be less. This example can be related to, for example, we take a cricket ball and a tennis ball, or you can take a table tennis ball also. It's very light, table tennis ball. So let us consider this m2 is a tennis ball, mass m1 is a cricket ball. If both are moving with the same velocity, tell me to stop which ball you will require more force. Obviously, you will require more force to stop the ball of cricket. Okay, why? Because its momentum is more. Its momentum is more, that means it is coming with more force. It is coming with more force, so in order to stop it, you will require more force. This tennis ball is having lesser momentum. Lesser momentum, why? Because its mass is less. Okay, its mass is less, so its momentum is less as compared to this. Its momentum is less, so its force will be less. So force required to stop the tennis ball will be lesser. Or you can take it this way also. Tennis ball moving with velocity v, cricket ball moving with velocity v. You can imagine the tennis ball coming and table tennis ball coming and hitting you, and the cricket ball coming and hitting you. Obviously, In which case you will get more injury? Right. You'll be more injured because of the cricket ball. Because cricket ball is heavier. Why? Because its momentum is more, that means its force applied is more. So you will get more injury. Similarly, this can also be related to like now you take a cricket ball and you take a bullet, okay, with which we fire a gun. Okay, so let us consider that the bullet and the ball both have same mass and they are moving with now different velocities. Obviously, you throw the ball, cricket ball, and you fire the bullet. Okay, so obviously whose velocity is more? Right, the bullet's velocity is more. Though the mass of the bullet may be equal to or may be lesser than the mass of the cricket ball, but its velocity is so high, so its momentum also increases. So we can write momentum is directly proportional to velocity also. More the velocity, more the momentum. So a person will not die if you hit him with a cricket ball, but if you fire a bullet on a person, the person will get more injured or he may also die. That means more the velocity of a body, more is its momentum, right? So that is the second case. Mass is same, velocities are different. So P1 will be nV1, P2 is nV2. Since V2 is greater than V1 over here, we are considering the velocity of, let us say this is a bullet. Okay, so velocity of bullet will be more and this is a ball. Velocity of ball will be less only. Let us say both have same mass. So whose momentum will be more? Obviously the bullet's momentum will be more. P2 will be greater than P1. So what did we infer? P, momentum is directly proportional to mass into velocity. More the mass, more the momentum, more the velocity, more the momentum. And momentum is directly proportional to force applied. More the momentum, more will be the force. Right? Okay, so based on this, we study Newton's second law of motion. And now after studying momentum, we come to the Newton's second law of motion. So now answer this question that, for example, consider that you are running on a track and you're running very fast. Very fast you're running, you've attained maximum speed with which you can run, and suddenly I ask you to stop. Suddenly, at that second only. Just imagine, will you be able to stop? No. It will take some time. You can decrease your speed gradually and then you will come to a stop. You must have seen runners, sprinters running on the track. Then when they attain so much speed, do they stop immediately at the end finish line? No. They again cover certain distance and then they stop. Okay, why is that? Because of the high velocity they will attain large momentum. So we studied that P is equals to mass, momentum is equals to mass into velocity. Since the sprinters have high velocity, their momentum also increases. Okay, so momentum increases, that means the force which they are applying, the force with which they are running also increases. So for them to stop immediately at that moment, it's not possible because equal and opposite force, retarding force, is difficult to apply, right? Similarly, you must have seen that trains passing through a station, when they have to stop at a particular station, see, the train must be coming with very high speed, and when it has to stop at a particular station, the driver starts applying brakes from far off, okay? Then only the train starts gradually decreases its speed and then it comes to rest, right? So that is because its velocity is high, so its momentum is high, so force is high, and retarding force will also be high and gradually it will be applied. Similarly, let us take an example. There was a car, for example, and it came to a stop. Okay, it wasn't starting. So 3 persons were pushing the car. Okay. 3 persons were pushing the car. Okay. And the driver told them to push the car so that it may start. You must have come across this scenario quite a few times. So they pushed the car. All 3 of them, they applied a lot of force, and just they moved together. They moved the car. Okay. So they applied the force, but simultaneously they applied, and that force was applied for a very short time. Let us say for 4-5 seconds. So that was a very short interval of time. Since though they applied a lot of force, but the car didn't move. They couldn't move the car. Okay. Then what did the driver tell them? He told them to keep applying the same force for a longer time, or lesser. Their force can be lesser, but they have to apply it to push the car for a longer time. So when they understood, they pushed the car for a longer time. All 3 of them applied the force, and after some time the car started. Why was that so? Because the time duration for which the force was applied was more. Okay. What did we infer from this? We infer that force is directly proportional to rate of change of momentum. Rate of change of momentum. Now, what is this rate of change of momentum? Rate of change of momentum is change in momentum. See, rate of change, that means with respect to time. When we talk about rate, distance upon time. So that is rate of change of distance. Displacement upon time, that is rate of change of displacement, like that. So rate of change of momentum is, rate means with respect to time, how fast or how slow. Change of momentum is final momentum minus initial momentum. That is change in momentum. Let us say the initial momentum of the car. What was the initial momentum of the car? 0, because its velocity was 0, right? So its initial momentum was 0. Final momentum was, when they pushed the car for some time, the car gained some velocity, and since its mass was high, so the final momentum was high. Okay. So the final momentum was something. Then since time was more, then the force applied was less, and the car started. Or you can understand it this way also. See, when the bowler bowls to the batsman, okay, a game of cricket is going on, and the bowler bowls to the batsman. The bowler bowls to the batsman at a very high speed, right? So the ball is coming to the batsman at a very high speed. The mass of the cricket ball is also large, and its velocity is also more. So what about its momentum? Right, its momentum is very large. Then what about what the batsman has to do? Now, in order to hit a 4 or a 6er, in order to hit a boundary, he has to apply equal and opposite enough force, right? Because the ball is coming at large momentum. So in order to change its momentum, change the direction, obviously he doesn't want the ball on his face. What he wants to do, the batsman, he wants to hit a boundary. So for that he has to change the direction of the ball. Plus, for the boundary, for the ball to go to the boundary, the velocity of the ball should be more. Okay, even more than what it is coming, with what it is coming to him. That means initial momentum of the ball is less. The batsman has to increase the momentum. Okay, he increases this momentum in a very short interval of time. For how much time interval the ball hits the bat? For a second, right? Just for a second. So the time in which this change in momentum takes place is very less. Since time is less, so the force applied is more. Force is inversely proportional to time, right? Change in momentum is high. Initial momentum was less. Final momentum is high. And the time is less, so again force is high. So a great force is applied by the batsman if he changes the momentum in a very short interval of time. He applies a large force, and due to this large force he is able to hit the boundary. Okay, so this is nothing but Newton's second law of motion, that rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the force applied. Remember, change in momentum is directly proportional to force. The time in which this change in momentum takes place is inversely proportional to force. So, if time is less, force will be more. If time is more, force will be less. One more example I can give you. When the girls who play long jump, right? Many of you must have played also in your 8th standards. Those who play long jump, what do they do? In order to take a long jump, in order to cover more distance, what do? They come running from a large, from some distance. Okay, why do they do that? Why can't they just jump from the beginning? That they do in order to increase their momentum. They come running, they increase their speed. Because of this increase in speed, their momentum is high. Since their momentum is high, the force applied is high and they can cover more distance, right? When they cover more distance, they can get a good lead. But have you noticed that what is there in that place where they fall, where they take the jump? There sand is there. Why sand is there? Because these girls, when they jump, their momentum is very, very large, and when they jump, their momentum reduces to zero, right? When they fall at a particular place, their momentum will reduce to zero. So this change in momentum is very high, from very large momentum to zero. Change in momentum is high, and if this will take place in a very less time, then the force exerted will be very, very high. Force exerted will be high, so force will be exerted. Equal and opposite force will be experienced by the jumper, by the athlete. The athlete will get injured. That is why there is a sand pit over there. So that sand will take the force with which the jumper jumps. The sand will go inside and lesser force will be experienced by the sand. So lesser force will be experienced by the athlete. So again, force is directly proportional to rate of change of momentum. What will be the unit again from here? Change in momentum will be momentum only. So kg meter per second upon second. So kg meter per second square. Okay, kg meter per second square is nothing but force. What is kg? Mass. Meter per second square, acceleration. So force is mass into acceleration. These are the two expressions for Newton's second law of motion. Force is directly proportional to rate of change of momentum. That can be also expressed as force is equals to mass into acceleration. Okay. So this is about the Newton's second law of motion. In the next class, we will study some more examples and some more applications of Newton's second law. Till then, keep reading. Happy learning. Thank you.